Okay, so let's go through some surfacing toolpaths. There's really three main surfacing toolpaths, and I'm going to start with the least used, and I'll show you why. But I'm going to go with the one listed under the overflow here as surface milling. So surface milling is one you'll see we haven't even updated it for the new Creo surfacing or Creo dashboard style, and that's partly because we don't use it very much. It still does one thing and one thing well. So let me go ahead and go through that. So setup, you basically pick a tool, pick parameters, and so forth, pick your surfaces, define the cut. So those are what you have to have. Obviously, I've got to pick a tool. I'm going to pick a ball and mill. Need some feeds and speeds and so forth. And obviously, the real key here is going to be step over, right? For a surfacing where I'm finishing that tool path, I'm going to use that value. I'll just leave all the others just defaults. Then it says, what surface do you want? Well, if I want like that surface, that's just fine. I can pick that. And then the way this one, surface milling, works for cutting direction is to use the UV contours of the surface. And so for one like this, it's basically that way or that way, right? So if I leave that, I play the path, it's going to go back and forth there. And then if I go back and let's define the cut, basically take that, I can turn it that direction and so forth, and then play the path again. Now I go side to side and so forth. So that's the main thing it does, is the default is going to be follow under defined cut. You're going to see follow those surface iso lines. There's a projected cut that's even rarer that I haven't used in a long time, and I'll show you why, because we've got other toolpaths that do that. Main problem with this is here for our surfaces, let's say I want to do the whole bottom, right? Well, I can pick those and those. Okay, so if I pick all three, same thing. Probably want to get them all going the same direction. But either way, the idea is this cuts each of them individually. So that's sort of one of the limitations of this toolpath. It's going to do it patch by patch, right? And that quite often, I'd much rather have a smooth, do the whole thing all at once. And that's why this toolpath's kind of fallen away. It's still there. It's still useful. And there's a couple of instances where it really, really can be useful. Let me call up another example. So if you have a shape like this is actually one of those where UV contours could be very appropriate depending on exactly what you're trying to do. So let's do essentially the same thing. And let's get a ball and mill, looks like that. And I'll set the same sort of step over. And I need a retract plane up here. And we're only going to do this as 3-axis. I will follow up with 4 and 5-axis information. Pick those surfaces. And now here's those UV contours, right? And probably not as useful there, but this is actually kind of useful for making this sort of dome cut. So if I do that play path, and let's slow that way down. Right, so that's actually for that kind of shape, and maybe not a perfect sphere, but sort of things like that. UV contour could still be a really, really appropriate cut for that sort of work. So not used near as much as the other two, and I'm going to follow up with videos on those two, but a nice tool to have inside your toolkit there. So that is surface milling.